If you call 911 because you're uncomfortable about your personal safety in Chicago, you know what I mean? I don't think they're gonna take you serious, right? But in this area right now, where you live, in this Metro Boston area, if you're uncomfortable about your safety, you call 911, you're gonna get service.
And do you know if I had an instance several years ago where I called 911 after a car accident and 911 didn't answer and I kind of freaked out. And then when I called back and finally got to someone, they said, oh, we're so understaffed. I said, oh my God, has that changed like post-marathon bombing or?
No, once there's a crisis, like a Boston Marathon type crisis, the phone system will be overloaded, you know? If you're calling 911 because you can't get through, that's necessarily not a bad thing. It's probably a good thing because people are calling for the same reason. Okay? And I will say, so when you call 911 from your mobile device, and I really think, and I see some young people here, if you're under 35, raise your hand if you're under 35, you live on your own, and you have a telephone on a wall somewhere in your house. I didn't think so. All right. We call that a landline. Copper, right? So a lot of people don't have this. So the 911 business right now, if I call 911 from my mobile phone right here, it's going to State Police Framingham. And this is the one thing to understand. State Police Framingham, and they're going to ask me 5 questions. What's your name? Where are you? What's going on? What's your phone number? Right? That might have been 4. I know there's another one there too. All right. And then they're going to say, okay, hold on. They're going to transfer you to Waltham PD. They're going to ask you the same 5 questions. Okay? And during a crisis, that can be frustrating, right? Okay? So understand that. So if you're in Waltham, I'd have the business number in your phone because you work here, and then at home I'd have the business number too. Or you can get the app called Haven, Haven, and you know how they have those apps you can call through. There's WhatsApp and all that other stuff you can communicate through. Haven is a 911 that you can call 911 through that app. It'll go to the local PD. Okay, and you can even populate it. If your child or something like that has allergies or epilepsy or any medical condition, you can populate that so if that child calls from their phone, when it gets to the dispatcher, they'll have that information. Yes? No, you.
One question that comes up a lot when we do crisis around in the school, like you gave the example of this room, but a lot of times the whole school is in this room at once. And as a teacher, like I'd say on a fire drill, when the alarm goes off, I'd like go stand in that door and I'd be like calling kids out. Like I would take charge to get my kids out. I would not run myself. I would not put my mask on first. And if I have kids over there at the door and I'm sitting here, like as teachers, I think I'm gonna like care about my students. I just wanna know what, that is the one, this place and the library are the hardest places to imagine getting to safety.
So you're what we call in charge of a vulnerable population, okay? Teachers, nurses, people that work in healthcare facilities. We do things different, right? So go with what you learned with the Alice Stream, how the kids are the priority. This is just to leverage that. If you're at the mall or you're outside and where lockdowns in Alice doesn't work, is what you want to do, is hide or run or whatever, okay? This isn't to replace anything that you learned about how to deal with a crisis inside of this school. That stuff still counts, all right? With the locking of the doors, you got some tips, maybe you could use that here, okay? But you're not just gonna, because if we said run, hide, fight for everybody, and you know, you're in a high school, so you can do things different, but I'm talking about primary schools, who would be running down the street? The teachers, right? The kids would be left behind. Who would be running out of the hospital? The nurses. So we do things different. So it's mostly lockdown in hospitals, healthcare facilities, nursing homes. It's get the people safe and lock them in where they are. Okay, but that's a great question. But this training's not to replace anything that you learn. It's just to leverage it. Yes?
This was about your comment about 911 and through a cell phone. So if I have a Philadelphia area cell phone and I call 911, am I going to end up with the Philadelphia
No.
police?
How cell phones work, it goes to the closest tower.
Okay, that's what I thought. I was just
Yeah.
checking because you mentioned that app, so I wasn't sure.
Yeah, so
Okay.
whatever tower it bangs off of, it knows.
Okay,
to
so
go to
they'll
that.
know where I am.
Yes, yeah, because it uses the GPS on your phone.
Right.
It'll know exactly where you are.
Good.
In the back? No, you, yep,
Hi.
hi.
So if I'm in a dangerous situation and I can't talk and I'm with my cell phone, should I just call and you're gonna see where am I and gonna respond to that?
Not with a cell phone, 911, there's no GPS location. If you have Haven, and you call it and just leave the line open, someone's coming to the location that you are. But it only gives an XY coordinates, which means if we're on the flat ground, it'll tell us where you are. But if I'm in a 50-story building and I'm on the 32nd floor, it will not find you on that. That's called the Z coordinates, I believe. You know, it's only gonna find two-dimensional.
Like about texting, sometimes you want to keep quiet, but you like to control.
Yeah, so depending on what community you're in, there's a silent 911 too. They'll ask you yes and no questions, one for yes, two for no. I don't know if all communities have it. It's good to research that. If your community has it, you can call 911, and then once they pick it up, you can do a series of numbers that says you're not gonna talk, it's just gonna be a silent thing, and they know, they go to a card and they ask you yes or no questions, okay? And a lot of, it seems with this new generation that these young people would rather text than talk to a human being. But we have text-to-tips in the police department, but they're not monitored 24 hours a day. You know what I mean? This is like, okay, Jimmy at 22 Main Street might be dealing drugs. Okay, well, we don't have to get to that right away, but if you're in a crisis, don't text. Call 911. Okay, you're gonna get help quick. But we see a lot of emergency texts that come into our texting. They're anonymous and stuff, that's why people, you know, don't wanna call, so. But if you're in a crisis, definitely call. You don't have to give your name. You know, you can just say, hey, there's an emergency at 123 Main Street, and the police will come. Okay. Anything else? Questions, concerns, tips, anything I didn't cover that you want to know? Well, thank you very much. Thank you for having me. I appreciate what you folks do too. I know nowadays it's pretty difficult to teach other people's kids, you know. Sometimes it can be tough, but thank you very much and continue to grind it out.